Hello, short introduction to code smells. So the idea behind code smells is this idea that when you read code and you see something that doesn't look, you feel that probably there's something wrong with it. So it's a trigger to start a refactoring. And I think that what is interesting about code smells is that they are they are a fundamental concept when you think in terms of shared code bases. So it's the idea that the code is shared by several people, and they have a common understanding of what is the code base, how the code is written, what is the structure of the code, the rules that follow the way you develop this code base. And code smells is when people that have this shared understanding about your code base detect something that does not conform to this shared understanding. So you you will find different types of code smells, and in some sense, some of them actually it's a repeat of what I already have seen from sense. For instance, when we talk about maintainability, first, a lot of things is about writing clean code. So when we have code smells within classes, what you are talking about is about the comments, whether it makes sense to have comments or whether the comments just repeat the code, that basic what is in the code, or if they really convey some different information that is not in the code. So it means that whether comments are there just because your code is not readable, you cannot make it more readable, okay? And then you have this idea of long methods, long perimeter list, and so it's something we talk about the maintainability, duplicate code, conditional complexity. So you'll see that most of this is actually that code. For instance, one interesting is speculative generality, which we keep addressing this one. Write code to solve today's problem and worry about tomorrow's problem when they actually materialized. Okay, and I think that what the big message is: everyone loses in the what if school of design. So these are the type of smells that you look at when you look at the code. You should feel available, or you should not be afraid to if you detect these smells, just to change the code and refactor the code so that you improve your code base. So this idea of ownership, shared ownership of a code base between the team. And then you have code smells related between classes. And of course, we have different lists, but probably there's not a standardization of the names, but these lists address the same problems. And when you talk about code smells between classes, we have things related with low cohesion or and and eye coupling between the classes, so you realize about it. So basically it's always to decide whether you have several primitive values that should be inside the class, or a, or you don't need to do it. So and whether and what is your interface. So if your interfaces are really encapsulating things, one of interesting problems that sometimes we don't realize is that interfaces should really be small, in the sense that if basically you have an interface of a class, and basically this whatever this class does is in the interface. So it's a very shallow class. These classes are really not interesting. So it's because actually they provide very few advantage for the ones that are using them. So this is the kind of things that you can identify, and again it repeats some of the patterns of that we have already addressed. For instance, like or the principles of good design, like for instance method change chains, like the Demeter principle, and so that's the I intend is just to read each one of them, and we'll discuss them in class.